did die, and at that time the Quran had yet been written down. It had been memorized by many of the companions. Parts of it had been written on bones, stones, some had been written on bark, but it had not been written down completely when he died. After he died, Abu Bakr takes over. Abu Bakr rules from 632 to 634. He dies normally. Then Umar takes over, and he rules from 634 to 644, the next 10 years. He then is killed. Uthman takes over, and he then rules from 644 to 656. It's during his ruling, the third caliph, his ruling, that the Quran was written down. We're going to talk more about that next week, because that's problematic. 650 to 652 is when the Quran was finally written down, roughly 18 to 20 years after Muhammad's death. This is what the classical account says. This is what I've been taught. This is what you've been taught. This is the only story you're going to hear. And then Uthman is killed, and Ali, the adopted son of Muhammad, then takes over, and he is considered to be the legitimate heir because he is adopted by Muhammad. Muhammad didn't have any heirs. He had 2 sons, but they died in childbirth. He had 4 daughters, but they could not be his heirs. And that's why Ali had to be his heir. Ali then takes over, and then he is killed at the Battle of Siffin in 661. Now, that is the story you've all heard. Have any of you heard any other story? No, I don't hear and see any hands. For a very good reason. There is no other narrative. That's the only narrative we're given. There you can see now where this is all happening. It's all happening in this red area here, from the birth of Muhammad in 570 up until the death of Muhammad in 632. Everything that took place during Muhammad's life is in that red area. Now, when should that have been written down? You would like to think it was written down, everything I've just told you, should have been written down while Muhammad was still living, or immediately afterwards, right? You would like to think so. It would make sense, because we're not talking about a time when people could not read or write. People could read or write. Listen, the Bible had been written long before this. We have a copy of the New Testament right here in London from the 4th century. This is the 7th century. 300 years earlier, they had already written the Bible down, and certainly people could read or write in this part of the world. Why? Because take a look and see what they controlled. They now controlled the central part of Arabia. These people were merchants. They should have been able to read or write. Muhammad could not, but certainly Khadija could, his wife. And he has a secretary named Zayd ibn Thabit. Zayd ibn Thabit is his secretary. What do secretaries do? They write, don't they? By definition, he should have been able to read or write. So you would have hoped that someone could have written down all the story that I'm just telling you about in this period, or immediately after